Bam. We're live. Or is it bam, we're live? No guest. Wait, there's a guest today. Jordan Leavitt. Jordan Leavitt. Leavitt. UFC fighter. Fights this Saturday. First fight on the card. What time is that at? Let me see. Saturday, December 18th, Jordan Leavitt versus Matt Sayles at I don't know. Well, here he is. We'll ask him. We'll just be like, hey, Jordan, what time's your fight? Hey, Jordan, what time's your fight?
1 p.m. on Saturday.
Yes, 1 p.m. Can't believe it. Can you believe it?
No, I'm actually pretty excited for this fight. So this week's been very relaxed, so I'm pretty pumped. On the first fight of the night, I'm not sure how I feel about that. I like to kind of like ease in, watch other people, do their stuff first, but it should be good.
I feel I like you, and I feel guilty that you're fighting. Is that weird?
That's probably how my family feels, actually.
Yeah, like
They're still.
Go ahead, say it.
Oh, they're still, kind of not. All of them haven't really come to terms with it.
Yeah, of course. I mean, it's super easy to make the argument that we're all made to fight. Like, that's it. That's the thing. I've had fighters on the show. I can't remember who it was. If it was, maybe I had Aljamain on here. Maybe it was Aljamain said a couple weeks ago, he said, hey, what was it? It wasn't him. I can't remember who it was, but basically said, hey, if I beat you up, like, it's done. Doesn't matter if your girlfriend's period mine. Doesn't matter if you have more money than me. Like, I beat you up. Like, what? It's like it's higher order man ego reality shit, right?
Yeah, it's like hierarchies are so real.
Hierarchies, yes. Thank you. And I really like you, and I think you're super. I just love your personality, your character, what you're doing with your life. But then all of a sudden, I'm like, oh yeah, but I don't want him to get hurt. But that it's kind of like you like a bird because it flies, and then you bring it home and you put it in a cage, and all the shit you liked about it's gone. Oh man. You look great. How is everything? How's the weight? How's the training? How's the haircut? How's the love life? How's everything? How's the whole?
Dang, everything's going pretty well. Haircut, I'm a little nappy right now. Just kind of woke up a little bit ago. I have a pretty decent fro when it's combed, so I have a fro for this fight. It's been a while since I've done that. Love life, wife and family are good. My baby turns 11 months next week.
Congrats.
So yeah, that's all kind of flown by. Being a dad's cool. I think it suits me. Definitely, it was worth the wait.
Say that again.
Oh yeah, being a dad's cool. It was worth the wait. And yeah, she's starting the stand now, and she says dad and ba. It's nice. It's like really cool. Like the little how fast they adapt and grow every day. It's really awesome to watch. I can't wait to have more. And I mean, it's up to my wife, because she has to go through the majority of the crappy parts. So I've loved the whole being a dad part, and it's been a nice adventure.
I love to hear that. I have 3 little ones too. I have 2 4-year-olds and a 6-year-old. And just last night, my dad's like, "Why do you do your podcast at 7 a.m.? So I can spend the rest of the day with my kids." I love it. How is that going? It is real. The time commitment, and if you don't have a great partner so you have 2 things that you have to fully be dedicated to, right? You're a professional athlete who has to get in the ring and put it all on the line, and that requires 100% commitment. And then you have a kid that requires 100% commitment. So kind of your mate, at least in my life, my mate's like the most important thing in getting that job done. How is that going? The time commitment, your relationship with your wife, and your ability to like manage all that time stuff.
I actually feel like being an MMA fighter it gives me like, even though I spend still like 6 to 8 hours a day, like training and doing technical work and everything, it's like split up. So I constantly get to be home in between everything that I'm doing. So like my baby, she'll take a nap basically for 2 hours and I'll be back. So she sees me for the majority of the time that she's like awake, and I haven't really missed any of like the milestone moments. So I'm really lucky because a lot of my family's like their parents, like everyone misses something because one person's watching the baby, other person's working, or both are working. And I'm actually very fortunate that I'm there when my baby wakes up. I'm there when she goes to sleep, and I get to see her for the majority of the in between if I like time my workouts correctly. And I haven't really had to juggle being like a dad and being a fighter too much because luckily they sleep a lot right now. And
Mhm.
yeah, and I just I'm gone for like 3 hour blocks. So it's been actually pretty. I'm actually pretty blessed to have kind of my situation the way it is.
And your wife's cool with the time commitment that fighting takes?
I mean, is anybody ever really cool when someone's gone for a big part of the day? But she always says she's happy like I don't have a regular job because if I wake up and say she needs some extra help in the morning, like I can stay home for I could stay home for a session. I could reschedule. I could text some people, say, "Hey, you want to work this at this time?" And I can just do that. If I was working a regular job, I couldn't say, "I'll just come in 3 hours later," and that's how it's gonna be. But it makes it easier for me to like be a helpful husband, and I don't have all that guilt where I come home after a long day
Yeah.
and then I'm too tired to do anything. So it's like it's awesome. My conscience is clear, and I get to see my baby all the time, and I get to be a
Yeah.
good husband, and yeah, I get to avoid a lot of those usual issues that some people run into.
And you're living in Vegas, right, Jordan?
Yeah, born and
Jordan,
raised here.
pronounce your last name for me.
Leavitt.
Leavitt. So you live in Vegas, you train in Vegas, and your fight is in Vegas.
I know it's perfect. I hate traveling.
And will you sleep in your bed the night of the fight?
No, since COVID, like all the COVID rules is like
Ah,
I have to check in right after weigh-ins, but the bubble they've shortened it a lot. You said to like check in 5 days before, and that was annoying. I hated that because like I live like 5 minutes away from the apex, and so it's always kind of frustrating where I have to like leave my like family for 5 days. But
yeah,
now I basically just have to get like a daily COVID test, and I have to constantly go there. But since it's right around the corner, it's not too bad. And I get to sleep in my bed right before I starve myself and sweat myself to death, and then I'm just gone for like 24 hours. So it's it's pretty cool. It's way better than fighting in Abu Dhabi. I can't imagine flying across the world, quarantining for a few days, and then being stuck in a hotel for like 10 days. So as long as I don't get my passport, I'm not doing that. I should be fighting here for the majority of the time.
do you not have your passport?
No, when I first got my UFC contract, they were doing like every other week in Abu Dhabi, and they told me if you have to get your passport so you can fight in Abu Dhabi. And I was like, so on the flip side, if I don't get my passport, I will only fight in Vegas. They're like, free, yeah, basically. And I never got back to them. I'd prefer just to stay here.
You were talking about in one of your interviews that you wanted to fight in October, November, and you didn't want to fight too close to Christmas. You ended up fighting. You're going to fight on December. What is it?
18.
18th. How is that for you? Are you fine with it? You good?
Yeah, I just had to start my weight cut a little early so that way I wouldn't have to be stressed out during Thanksgiving.
Oh, right, right.
Um, I was a vegetarian for like 5 years when I was younger, and I hated being the person like, oh, sorry, can't eat that. So this year I cut the weight a little earlier, suffered like a week or two extra. That way I can not make Thanksgiving annoying for everybody else. And yeah, it's a week before Christmas, but hopefully nothing. I won't have a black eye for any of the pitchers, and I can get a bonus and then the year well. And yeah, Christmas is always stressful, so I guess a paycheck right before is pretty cool.
Yeah, that is really cool. Guys, Jordan Leavitt, 26 years old. He's fighting this weekend, Saturday, 1 p.m., December 18th. We had Jordan on the show before. I highly recommend going back and listening to it. You make it to the UFC. You have that first fight that's just nuts. Everyone should definitely see that fight against Matt Weinman. Then you fought Claudio Puelles.
Yeah, players.
And that went the distance. a pretty uneventful fight. I like what you said. You didn't lose the fight. You ran out of time. And you know, a lot of people you could be like, well, that's just bullshit excuse. But if you watch the fight, actually fits quite nicely. And I really like that. I watched all your interviews that you've done in the last, couple months. Your confidence is extraordinary. It's still obvious you believe in yourself to the fullest, or at least you have me tricked. What's the deal with this guy, Matt Sayles? He seems like it seems like both you guys are the real deal, and something's going to be settled. It's interesting. It's two new guys with two great records who've had some great wins and some great fights, and now you guys are facing each other just bam right off at 1 p.m. What do you think about him in the fight?
I like him. The past 2 years, we've actually been kind of like a nice mirror for each other. We both had a knee surgery. We both had a daughter recently, or we both moved up the weight class. Yeah, I don't know too much about him. I usually stalk my opponents, check out their Instagram, watch all their interviews. But I also feel like that kind of gets in my head sometimes. Like you start to feel too much empathy, and it's hard to want to fight somebody and beat them up if oh, their daughter's birthday was yesterday. Oh, they went through this trial, and you start to think maybe I don't deserve this win. Maybe this person would be happier, and it'd be better off if they won. So I just watched his fights. He's got a big right hand, pretty good. He's got smooth striking, pretty well rounded, and yeah, he thinks he's gonna knock me out, and I guess it could happen, but I don't think it's gonna happen.
I don't think it's going to happen either. What about this? Speaking of empathy, so after the Chris Weinman fight, anyone who watches that fight, sorry, not Chris, Matt. There is the knockout is vicious, and we all know it went viral. And you're in the ring, and you're in the octagon, and it's very emotional for you. Basically, what it looks like is the viewers that you feel bad that you knocked him out. Now, and that makes perfect sense to me. I always wonder, we even saw it. I don't know if you watched the Lomachenko fight last week, but he's beating this guy, and he has to look at the ref, and he has to look at the corner and be like, hey, someone needs to stop this shit. Like, you can tell at some point he's like, the empathy kicks in is what it looks like. But what is that comes to this question? What is worse, knocking someone out that viciously or losing to Claudio Puelles? Does that fix that? You get one loss and you're like, okay, fuck this empathy thing. I'll go home and cry and feel bad. But in the ring, I just got to mash dudes.
No, that really helped me a lot.
Okay.
Up until after my loss, I had conflicted feelings about knocking out Matt Wineman.
Yeah.
I never watched it. I never posted videos of me slamming him. And then I lost my fight, and I'm like, well, this doesn't feel nice either.
Right.
I go home, I look in the mirror, and I'm seeing a loser for the first time, and it made me angry and made me doubt a lot of the stuff I did. And I'm like, dang it, I always have doubts and insecurities, but it's better to be a winner and have all those negative emotions,
Sure.
So yeah, I mean, I prefer not to hurt people. That was my first time ever knocking anybody out, period. I've dropped people, but that was my first time sleeping somebody, and I liked Matt Wineman. I looked up to him. So there's a lot of mixed emotions. His wife was ringside. That was always that shouldn't be allowed. But yeah, I guess I'll feel a little bad if I knock out somebody again, but I can't worry too much about it. Chances are they'll be fine.
Jordan, do you have this thing, the killer instinct that I hear people talk about? I almost feel bad using the word because I don't really know what it is, but do you have that?
For me, it's I never I'm like, oh, let's fight. I'm never super pumped in that way. I don't enjoy the fist fight, but I feel like, I don't want to sound weird, but I kind of disassociate hurting somebody during the fight, and then as soon as it's after, it kind of kicks back. It's it's very cold and calculating for me when you cut somebody or you hit somebody or you're hurting them, and you hear them kind of grunting in effort and pain, and you feel someone break. I don't really feel emotions during that time. it's mostly like kind of like if I was like in a video game, like you see like the health bar at the top,
Yeah.
you kind of like imagine that over somebody. I try to like separate myself from a lot of like the primal instinctual like emotions and feelings you have.
Some people were. It was interesting. Some people in the videos I watched in the last couple of days were comparing you to Ryan Hall. Is that the guy's name? And
Yeah.
and then I also heard you say that you need to really work after your Claudio fight. You need to work on your urgency. For those of you guys who don't follow fighting, there Ryan Hall is a very, very peculiar fighter. Everyone respects the shit out of him. He's really, really fucking trippy. He's like one of those weird fish that lives like in a saltwater tank that like you're just staring at and you're not sure like how'd you get in here with the rest of the fish. You don't. And there's no doubt that Jordan has some of those qualities. There's no doubt. He's from the fans and from the commentators, he's very, very grappling, jiu-jitsu oriented, and there's almost like a slowness to you guys. Maybe slowness isn't the right word. Maybe it's urgency, but you don't behave like someone who's in a fight, either of you. Like everyone else, there's a bit of a franticness to them. And you're like, yeah. What do you think about that comparison? Do you need to fix that? Is that just who you guys are?
No, like I'm like both.
I mean, it's a compliment, right? It's a compliment,
yeah.
But it's also a little weird. You're like, that guy, there needs to be some urgency.
Yeah. We're both just very like confident and like we know what our abilities are and we know like what's going to happen in certain positions. And like we're both like when you listen to his interview, like we're both very frank, like, oh yeah, this person could knock me out. They could do this, this, and that. But we're just very confident in our preparation. And for me, it's always been like, as long as I can get the rounds in and get my cardio in and the strength training in, like if I'm better than this person, majority of the time I'm going to win. I shouldn't stress out about what they can do. Because if you're not getting beat constantly inside the training room, you're probably not going to get beat very often in the fight. And yeah, I'm flattered by the comparison. He does. I feel like he lacks even more. He lacks urgency even more than I do. And
yeah, it's almost like he's not in a fight. It's almost like he's not in a fight.
Yeah, and he kind of is. Like, it's super easy to go out there and say relax when you know a person's not even going to like engage you in like one area of the fight game. It's always nice to know you always have a escape route that no one else wants to follow you down. So like no one will ever grapple him because he's one of the best grapplers in the world. So he can strike with you, and if he doesn't like it, he'll just fall to his butt. But you're not going to do anything. He gets to pace himself, get up slowly, And for me, it's like I know on the ground, no one's ever going to hurt me. Like I'm very good at like not getting hurt. I know on the feet, my defense is pretty airtight. I don't get hit. So for me, it's very easy for me to be confident in my offense because I know the chances are I'm probably not going to be eating too much like punishment back.
And you guys are in the same weight class, you and Ryan.
He's 145 right now. We were in the same weight class up until about a year ago, and now he's a 45er.
He fought at 45 last week. That fight was at 45.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. And you're not doing that. You're not messing with 45 anymore.
No, because I got a kidney failure in my last 45 cut, so it kind of forced me to move up, and I'm like pretty like dry right now. I've been like water loading, so I'm like losing a bunch of water weight, and I'm like still like 173. Wow. So I still like 18 pounds to go. So yeah, 45 was like not even like in my wheelhouse anymore, sadly.
What is that? It's Wednesday morning.
Yeah.
So
48 hours almost.
Is 18 pounds a concern?
Nah.
No. Okay.
No. I just look at 2 gallons of water, and that's basically how much I have to lose. But
oh, you drank 2 gallons knowing that that's what you have to lose.
Oh no, it's just like I see it, like that's how I visualize it. It's
okay.
Like 16 pounds is 2 gallons, and I have like 18 pounds left, and I still feel pretty good. I sparred yesterday. Never supposed to like spar week of, but like I sparred, felt good, 5 rounds, and gonna do some drilling today. And I had 3 gallons on Monday, 2 gallons yesterday. I have like 3/4 a gallon today, so the body's gonna drop like 5 or 6 pounds. I started carnivore yesterday, so yeah,
Wow.
weight will come off. I'm not too concerned about it. I don't think this weight cut's be too bad.
One of your fellow fighters, Dylan Vowell, he just says, hopefully they don't forget that you can KO them too. 20-second slam and sleep. Thanks, Dylan.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I think the possibility of me knocking out Matt Sayles is very real. And he's like, oh, he's either gonna submit me or I'm gonna knock him out, and that's kind of like the only scenarios that are gonna play out. And I mean, I trained with Dan Hooker. He's a top fiver. I've trained with Cowboy. I train at one of like the best gyms in the country. And all the fights, all the rounds of sparring, they start on the feet. So I grapple because I know I'm dominant there. But if he can stop me from implementing Plan A, like Plan B is going to go just as bad for him, I imagine. So it would be nice to get like a knockout again. All my UFC wins could be by knockout, and all my fights before that could be by submission.
And Sean Strickland trains in your gym.
He very recently moved, but yeah, Sean was there for about 2 years.
And where did he go?
Just at Extreme Couture's, like right down the street. So I still see him on the days where I go to a different gym and get some rounds in. So even though my family is kind of splitting up a little bit, I still see them all because I'm all over the valley.
Is that normal? Are there hard feelings? Is that normal for guys to like cruise around?
um, it depends. Like the MMA world's very interesting because like some gym owners are like cultish. Like you can't learn from anybody else, you can't help out anybody else, and in Vegas, a lot of the coaches are like that. So there's a lot of drama when you gym hop in Las Vegas for whatever reason. But you go to other places, and from what I hear, it's not too much like that. Like people acknowledge that, hey, like I'm one person, or like we have like 4 coaches on staff. There's 80 of you. It makes perfect sense for you to try to get more personal attention to somebody else. And for me, it's like as long as you know where your home gym is, and like you know where like your main training partners and like your family is, it shouldn't matter like where you're visiting. So I go to boxing gyms and I visit Couture's every once in a while, and I'm friends with everybody. And it makes it harder to get fights because you train with more people in your weight class and whatnot. But a lot people gotta understand that like fighting's like almost like investing in your education. You need to constantly learn new skills to match the market and to be competitive with other people. And for me, as long as you're gaining knowledge, it's the most important thing. And
Yeah.
some coaches don't like that.
I think it's probably also personality driven too. I suspect that the kind of personality that you have, people are more okay with you visiting their gym or coming to their gym or leaving their gym. You're just not a I don't know. It's easy to accept you.
Yeah, and people just know like if I know 2 people at a separate gyms and they're fighting, like they know I'm not gonna help out either of them. Like, oh, what
Gotcha.
do you think about this? And I'm like, well, if you watch his fights, you see this, but like anything personal, like I ain't gonna do that. I feel like as long as you're not like a sleaze bag, people usually aren't gonna mind you too much. And I don't hurt people when I spar, and I always help out and offer my 2 cents, and yeah, and people appreciate that. So I think it makes it easy for me to hop around.
How did you know when you were serious? Like the other day, don't laugh at me. I knew that finally I take my kids to jiu-jitsu 3, 4, 5, 6 days a week. Never less than 3, often 6. And I knew that we were serious when we got nail clippers for the car that just live in the car. I was like, oh shit, this is getting serious. How did you know that when what were some of the signs you're like, oh shit, this is serious?
um, when I was training, and they're like, so, and all the coaches, like every coach, basically would be like, so, like, what's your end point in this? And you only ask that question in 2 scenarios. Number one, like that you don't belong in that sport, and they're like, hey, you might want to think about your end game, like get out of here. Or they're
Okay.
like, no, like you kind of got it. And especially as a person with like a lot of like self-doubt and like this imposter syndrome, like monkey on my back that I've been like kind of dealing with for like the entire fighting thing, it makes it easier to kind of wing it when other people believe in you.
Uh-huh.
Like if you believe in your training partners and they believe in you, like by extension, you should be able to believe in yourself. And I'm kind of slowly coming to terms of like, I'm a fighter and I belong here. It wasn't an accident. And I'm not just beating these people because I see a hole and they're unlucky enough for me to like expose that thing. It's like, yeah, maybe I'm actually good. Maybe I belong here and I put in the work in and I'm the person that deserves to win in a lot of these circumstances.
So it was when someone said something to you and you're like, wow, okay.
Yeah,
They
I'm like,
see
oh,
that. Okay. Yeah, that's interesting. That's really interesting. I think for some reason I like imposter syndrome.
hmm.
By that I mean I had made 10 movies. I had directed and produced 10 documentaries. And I still would never call myself a director. Like if someone said, "What do you do for a living?" I would be like, "Oh, I'm in media." Then I would meet someone and I'd be like, "Hey, what do you do?" And they're like, "I'm a director." And they're like, "What have you directed?" "Well, nothing yet." And I'm like, and I used to think, well, that's interesting. They're comfortable calling themselves a director. They haven't made any movies, and I'm not comfortable. But finally, I kind of just accepted it. Like, it's fine. I can make movies and just not be that. I don't know. I always feel like imposter syndrome is like, they couch it as like you should believe in yourself, but not if it's, I'm like, well, not if it's working the other way. Like if I don't believe in myself as that and I'm still crushing it. You know what I mean? Maybe you should, maybe that's good for you, that you just, it's good to not believe in yourself so that you always have something to prove to yourself. Do you know what I mean? Kind of like you
Yeah,
leverage that insecurity. It's like they said, I heard someone ask Tyson one time when he was young, "Hey, you know, are you going to go to a shrink and get this fixed?" He goes, "Nah, this is what makes me a killer." It would be messed up if they fixed that, you know?
mm-hmm. It's like everybody has like this great weakness, like a shadow. But like even though like it's painful, it's like a cross kind of to bear. Like
Yeah.
a lot of the time, like difficult things and like tribulations like really build you and make you go and force you to grow, not
Yeah.
just like stay in the comfort zone and like do like, oh yeah, I believe in myself, I can do this because like I'm enjoying it. Sometimes it's important. So like sounds weird, like kind of to like hate it,
Yeah.
like to want to like to enjoy the struggle. And for me, it's like there's a sports psychologist on staff at the UFC, and I've never used him or anything because I'm like, first off, I don't think anything's wrong. You know, like I'm pretty sure I know. Like I don't. Sometimes I doubt if I am good or anything, and that's very natural. But because I doubt that, like I never take for granted like my training days. I
Yeah.
never take days off. I'm always working. I'm always training, and even though it makes me a head case on fight week, like it all pays off on fight night because when you're fighting somebody and they're trying to knock you out, and you know everything else disappears in the periphery, and I don't have anxiety when I'm in there. So it's better for me to be better prepared. So yeah, I feel you a lot on that.
When does it go away? Is it, does literally like that you have to hear the bell ring? When I took I know it's only a 7-year-old kid, but when I took my 7-year-old to when I take him to Jiu Jitsu tournaments, he told me one time, he goes, "Man, I was shaking so much." And I go, "Like really shaking?" He goes, "Yeah." He goes, "I was vibrating." And I said, "Even when you're going?" He goes, "Oh no, as soon as they say go or kumbats or whatever they say," he goes, "you stop shaking and you start fighting." And I was like, "Just like that?" He goes, "Yeah." I go, and he goes, "And you don't start shaking again until your next fight." Is it like that? Are you basically like vibrating?
Yeah, for me, for the most part, like my
Like you're about
best
to
fight,
kiss a girl. That's the only thing I can think of. Like the first time I was about to kiss a girl, I'm like, "Holy shit, I'm gonna vibrate out of my skin."
yeah, the anticipation is just a lot worse than
Than kissing a
because
girl.
yeah, like when you fight, like there's all this fluff. There's weigh-ins and there's face-offs and there's the walkout song, and you're like there 3 hours early because they put you in the locker room. They don't want you to run off and whatnot, and all of that is not part of the usual routine. So like everything's you're distracted by all this fluff and like grandeur. And then as soon as they say go and you touch gloves, then it's like, oh, I'm familiar with this. I do this all the time. My best fights has been when basically somebody like pushed me out of my anxiety. I had this one weigh-ins. We're at the weigh-ins, the guy like put his fist in my face. And I was not anxious at all for that fight. Like he made me like kind of like, okay, you want to fight? And that like kind of put me back into like, oh, I'm at the gym. This guy's being a punk. Like I'm about to swat him. And that fight, basically, it was only 70 seconds, but I've never like came out with like no like so much pep in my step, and I was just very aggressive. There wasn't a glove touch. I just like walked out there and like choked him out. So for me, it's like as soon as someone like flips that switch for me, it stays on. And I really liked it like that one time where he pissed me off at weigh-ins because for an entire day I didn't have anxiety. I was like, oh, I can't wait to beat up this person, you know. Just
Yeah.
like when you hear about a fighter coming into town that you've never trained with, I'm like, oh, I'm gonna get him today. I'm super excited to beat up this guy and do this. Because in training, there's not any consequences if you can't do it. So for
Right.
me, I have to like be like, oh, pretend like this guy's just at my gym and he's being a punk, and I just got to put him in his place.
Do you ever train with the gi on, and Jordan?
Not too much when I'm in camp, but I've done it like twice the past month, just to get a sweat in.
Oh, is that why? Just for the heat? You don't actually like. Why does anyone use the gi anymore? I had Nick Rodriguez on the show. He's no gi. I asked. I think I had Chris Montanillo on the show, and I was like, "Hey, should people do gi or no gi?" And I think I said to him, he goes, "Well, it depends on what you want." I go, "I want it so if my boy's making out with a girl in an alley and someone comes in there, he can defend the girl." He goes, "No gi," and I'm like, "Why does anyone do gi anymore?"
I feel like humans, we love the fluff. Like we don't just want to learn what's useful. We want to learn like what is interesting or fun, and we want to have like kind of cheat codes. And the gi
Okay.
gives you so many different avenues of attack and control that allow you to kind of break the rules that would actually happen unless you're fighting somebody in traditional 17th century Japanese like wear. But a lot of
That's what a
people is
gi
like,
is. That's what a gi is. It's
yeah,
17th century shit. Okay.
yeah, it's like based on it's exactly the kimono. It's a kimono, the old school kimonos. Same. That's why it's made of that material, and that's why it crosses over on one side. So I mean, I guess if you're fighting some like weeb from Japan, you have a pretty good chance of maybe finally get to show off that gi work. But humans, we like the fluff, we like the ceremony, we like feeling like, oh yeah, we like to wear something that's like distinguishes you from other people. Like I think the whole idea of like belts, I understand it like from a business perspective and like a ranking perspective to be able to see how good somebody is from an
Right.
outward marker.
Right.
But like Nogi, it's just like, it don't matter what belt you are, it choked you out. You know, like that's the hierarchy, and people like to have a hierarchies like this is where you belong. People like to know that. And in Nogi, it's like there's a lack of hierarchies, and I feel like it makes a lot of people anxious about where they fit in or like where they size up to other people.
Do you know what belt are you? Do you do the belt thing?
I'm a purple belt. I was a blue belt for 8 or 9 years because
Wow.
I got my orange when I was 15,
Okay.
and I hadn't worn a gi for 8 or 9 years. So like one day I went to gi and I'm wearing an orange belt. They're like, okay, well you're old, so now you get a blue belt. And then I was teaching the kids class, and my kids like, why are you just a blue belt, Coach Jordan? Then like all the black belts in my gym, like as I was like leading the kids in a warm up, they just all got me a purple belt and they promoted me in front of the kids. Like it's a travesty you've been a blue belt for this long. So maybe eventually, by that pacing, I should be a black belt when I'm 40. So
But since you never put on the gi and you never put on the belt, I mean, is that something that even happens at your gym at Syndicate? Do they even do belts there?
not really. And they only do gi for 3 classes of the week. So yeah, a lot of gyms don't emphasize it anymore, especially because from a business perspective, like people got to buy the kimono, and it just those classes are always smaller, and especially now that no gi's exploding and gi's kind of not dying, but it's definitely stagnated. More people are interested like in the no gi because it's easier to understand from a layperson.
Yeah.
Like a regular person, like they watch jiu-jitsu for the first time, they're watching a bunch of lapel work and worm guard. They're just pulling on each other's clothes. It doesn't look very impressive, but you watch someone just like grab a kimura or armbar somebody or strangle somebody, you could see that. You may not understand all the in between, but like when someone's caught, you're like, oh, what's this? What's happening?
Yeah.
Everyone, even if they have no idea what's happening, they get super excited when they watch someone lock in a submission because we know how the body's supposed to look. And when people contort the little alignment or something, it looks threatening.
Yeah.
So I definitely think
What
no gi's the way to go.
what was the word you used? Gi is saturate. What was the word you used? A word that was too big for me.
Stagnating.
Saturate. What? Say it again.
Stagnating.
Oh, stagnating. Okay, I know that word. Okay, sorry. Yeah, it's interesting. And when I take the kids to the tournaments, There's fewer kids who do know gi. They're bigger. They allow a wider age range and a wider weight range because there's just fewer kids who do it. But I just feel like, just from just interviewing a bunch of you guys and jiu-jitsu guys, that no gi is where it's all headed, especially in the United States. And it's more
Yeah,
functional, I think.
yeah, 100%. And it's just, and plus the gi's like painful, you know, like I'm getting laser hair removal on my neck because when I do gi, like it would like rip up my skin. I get a bunch of ingrown hairs, and it sounds like a little pansy thing to do, but like I hated that. So I
Yeah.
just stopped doing gi because I didn't like my neck being like hickied up. You know, I always I had hickeys walking around, and it, like I have bald spots. The gi would like rub off parts of like my beard. So I'm like, nah, like gi's just painful. Getting gi choked, first off, put you unconscious way faster because of the leverage. That's never fun. But also, it's just painful. You like leave and you feel like you got Velcroed everywhere.
Are you going to do any other? I see a lot of these guys now do, not a lot, but I see guys like doing other stuff. Like James Krause is doing stuff. Cowboys doing other stuff. Um, are you going to be doing other stuff besides UFC? And are you allowed to do that? Does the UFC contract allow you to dabble in other types of combat sports?
If you're not scheduled for a fight, yes. I would like to uh I did a Jiu Jitsu tournament in September. That was fun. Right before my fight was scheduled and signed, so I got to like kind of have fun. I haven't done Jiu Jitsu like about a decade, so that was pretty cool.
Where
Uh,
was that at? Where was that at?
that was just Naga in Las Vegas, so just here.
And how did that
But
go?
um, I got I I didn't get I got like fourth, I guess technically, but I what's it called? Won my first two rounds pretty like easy because people don't like doing takedowns or wrestling. So they kind of let me they pulled guard and I kind of just dominated them and got a pass. But then I faced this really good, I'm forgetting his name right now, but he was like American national champ, but I didn't know that. And like he caught me in a good heel hook and stuff. And so yeah, he kind of knocked me out of the bracket. So that was frustrating.
Do you
But
tap extra fast knowing that you can't be you need your body to make a living?
oh yeah, like I tap so fast, like in jiu-jitsu. I'm like, dude, first off, I paid to be here. So
Right.
I ain't gonna pay to get injured.
Right.
Um but yeah, to have like do I feel like I could have fought through things more? Like yes, if like that was like my why for training and stuff, like it's definitely different. Like in jiu-jitsu where people jump on you to go for a guillotine. I'm like, flashback, like 6 months ago I killed a person doing this. So
Right.
like why would I train to defend that? You know, I spent a lot of my time doing that. So it's definitely a different like sport.
Right.
And you know, a lot of people kind of separate the self-defense martial part of the arts. You know, so that's a little frustrating for me. Kind of more of like a practical, like martial arts. I like to do things that work if somebody wants to hit you or stomp you and stuff. And the
Right.
sports kind of moved away from that, and that's good. That's good. It makes the sport more entertaining and more approachable. But for me, I'm like, well, if it was a real fight, I would have dominated you even worse. And I hate to be that person.
And you were okay with that taking fourth? It doesn't affect you. It's not like you walk away with like, wait a second, I'm a UFC fighter. Wait, I'm a professional fighter. You're like, okay, I got the warm up, I got the training, I got in some reps that I wanted.
Oh no, it doesn't. I mean, I hate to lose. I'm competitive, but
Uh-huh.
no, I mean, as long as you know, if they, especially if they do recognize me, they do know who I am. It's like they know the rule set's different. You know, I've taken away a lot of my weapons to play your guys' game, and it's like when MMA fighters go into boxing, except jiu-jitsu, I'm not gonna get knocked out and embarrassed. It's like the real man, goes up and fights under the more dangerous rule set, but you're asking me to like protect you. You want to
Oh,
like
right,
show me how much of a
right.
man you are, but you want me to protect you as well. And that's just very interesting dynamic for me.
And you did it as a purple belt, that tournament?
Well, they had me since Nagata's just by experience level, so I was in the black belt and like 8 years
Okay.
plus division. So yeah, beat a nice two black belts, and then one got me. So I not too bad.
Yeah, no, it's great. When we had Nick Rodriguez on the show, I said something to him like, "Hey, like when you put someone in an armbar, do you just go and then watch them and then stop when they tell you to stop? Like how does that work? Or do you act? And I didn't really think he was going to answer this question as yes. I go, do you really try to break their arm? He goes, dude, I go in there and I'm trying to fucking snap their arm off or break their leg. And like, if they don't tap, that's what's going to happen. And I'm just like, holy shit. Because
Yeah.
I guess even when I watch the UFC, I think they know, you know what I mean? Like the fighters know because you do so much training where you don't snap off someone's leg. You know, like you get to a point and then you look at the guy, right? Or you're like, hey, what the fuck? You better tap. But it's not like that in the ring. Like when you put someone in an armbar in the UFC or in any of these fights you've been in, like you're just going all the way. Like you're just trying to just break the arm off like a chicken wing.
Yeah, and it's because I learned my lesson in my second amateur fight, where basically, like, in this funny video, like basically I'm arm barring him, and you see me like grimacing because I don't want to like tuck his arm into my armpit to like snap it, and then like I very
Yeah.
slowly do it, but then like it pops out and he taps, and I'm like, what an idiot, you know? Like I will break it. Like winning's more important to me than like not wanting to hurt you, and it's like if it's your job to protect yourself at the end of the day. My fifth pro fight, I think it was for LFA. I put a guy in a heel hook. I popped his knee. He didn't tap, and I'm like, okay, pretty stupid. And I put him in a arm bar scenario and popped his shoulder very bad. Didn't tap, and I'm like, okay, like you're not protecting yourself, cool. But then I locked him in a choke 30 seconds later, and he tapped. I'm like, why of all the things not to tap to, choose a thing that's not going to hurt you? And like, oh, I'll see him like limp through the airport. It made me angry. I was like, dude, like first off, you're not going to beat me on one leg. You're not going to beat me with one leg and one arm. You're going to make me choke you unconscious too. So now I just get more annoyed when people don't tap. And even in training, like unless like they're a high level, if you're stubborn, I'll very slowly like go to your end range. Like I'm not going to jump into anything, but you want to have an ego, like it's your medical bill kind of thing, and it's not
Right.
my fault as long as I give you the time and opportunity to take care of yourself.
Yeah, it's nuts. It's nuts. When I hear that or see that, and do they teach you when I hear that and see that, I'm like, man, I don't know if my kid should be doing this sport. Um, do they are there rules in gyms? Like, do they tell you when you first go to a gym, or is your training and coming up, or no, this is just stuff that's known? Everyone has to have enough common sense to figure this out on their own.
It's really a thing that like people generally just like we all kind of like through personal exploration and stuff like kind of like discovered, okay, this is a D-bag move, this is what you do. Like as long as you give people the opportunity to like protect themselves, it's
Yeah.
generally not your fault. And also a lot of people they just even in jiu-jitsu MMA they don't know how to break a limb or pop a knee. I feel like a lot of submissions people get caught in, it's more of a concession hold. Like people are panicking and
Well,
like
that's
some
interesting
people.
that because Nick told me that too. I think he said yes, a lot of people just tap too early also. On the other
Yeah,
end, he said they tap too early and so they don't get the experience of trying to get out of a get out of a submission.
yeah, and it's led to like a lot of people their offense not being very effective because they can't they can't accomplish what their moves threatening. Like if I have a knee bar, but I have the wrong mechanics, yes, I can hurt. It'll be very painful and uncomfortable for me to straighten somebody's leg. But like you need some pretty good power and a good optimal angle to really hyperextend somebody's knees, most powerful joint in the body. So like for me, especially because I've been grappling for like 11 years now, like I know how to break a leg, I know how to blow a knee, break an elbow, shoulder, and it's not a concession hold with me because I've been burned too many times in training and in competition where you don't want to like hurt somebody and you very slowly put on the you know the pressure to get breaking pressure and they they're not defending in a very controlled like way. They are defending with all their might, all their ability. So it's like, why would I give 40% of my offense to 100% of your defense? It's like, no, I gotta break you, and you gotta stop me from doing that. And if you can't, then you have to tap. You know, and
Right.
that's one thing Donna Hare is really good at teaching, just how to break a leg. That's why they're the best leg lock gym in the world, is because people know, oh, I don't get to use my flexibility on this. Like you're snapping these ligaments. I'm not going to be able to train for a year if I don't have to this. And people usually choose the rational decision in those situations to not power through and try to grit their teeth.
Yeah. Yeah. Man, it's a crazy sport you're in. I hear the guys, I guess what makes the news is guys complaining that they don't get paid enough, that they don't make enough money for what they do. And then on the other hand, I hear you say that because of the little bit of success that you've had and the steps you've taken, that you're able to not have a day job now, that fighting is your day job. With the money you've made, you're able to support your family for the next year or two. Did I understand that correctly? And what makes you different?
I just, especially if you're a fighter, you're generally like sacrifice a lot of working opportunities, maybe even schooling. So as soon as you get some semblance of money, you're like, oh my gosh, baller, this, and this. But even like I bonused my first fight. And then after I paying all my coaches and management agency, it was only like $49,000 after the bonus and the pay. And that's a pretty decent amount of money if you're not trying to like splurge. Like, unless you're like in Cali, like even Las Vegas, like that's just by itself, like that's like at least 2 years of rent.
Right.
And so for me, it was like, no, I'm going to take care of my biggest expenses first. And I'm going to be patient. I'm not going to jump ahead into liabilities that I can't keep up with. And a lot of fighters, especially like say if you're married, like they get to the UFC, they make their first like paycheck, and maybe it's only like $20,000. Like, okay, this is gonna be my normal. I can get a new house. I can do this. I can stop feeling like a deadbeat. And a lot of fighters they extend themselves so quickly and not realizing how fickle a lot of the things in this sport are. And do I think we get paid more? Like, yeah, 100%. Like fighters definitely have a short end of the stick. We don't have any power, and fighters are too combative with each other to want to really work together and do some like group bargaining. So until we solve our own problems, like it's going to be a pretty you're going to get shafted pretty hard. So for me, it's like if you know our situation's crappy, why are you making it harder on yourself? Why are you living life stupidly? Why are you buying like nice stuff? Like
Right.
we're not NFL players, like you have to compete and you have to win to get money. And a lot of fighters they're just not smart with their money, and they're not realistic about what their future is. Like, everyone plans their budget off of a win. Like, oh, if I win,
They
after I
really
win my
do
next
that.
fight,
That
fight.
just seems so crazy to me. I like what you do. That's what I do too. I see your rent or your mortgage as your runway. So if you can have if you know your mortgage is $100 a month and you have $2,400, you put it in a bank account and you just gave yourself 2 years of runway. You'll figure out the food and electricity. You know what I mean? But now you have
Yeah.
shelter for 2 years. Just hide that, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I really like your thinking. And that's how I view it. I really view it as runway. Always give yourself as much runway as you can. And who wants to live in a $3 million house, but you have to worry about the price of gas and avocados? I'd rather live
Right.
in a fucking shitty house and fill my gas tank up when I want.
Yeah. At the end of the day, as long as there's like a roof over your head, like you could skip on other things.
Yeah.
Like we have evolved over millions of years to not want to starve to death. So as long as you have a roof over your head, you'll find a way to hustle and get something else to take care of yourself. It's like I like the one quote. It's like you don't lack opportunity, you lack discipline. You know, like yes, you can get lucky, and if you get a bunch of opportunities, like it'll help you out in life. But like discipline at the end of the day will get you farther than luck or connection to will. Because I know plenty of people who make a lot of money, but they're broker than I am because
Yeah.
they don't have the discipline.
Yeah.
So
Discipline really is everything.
yeah,
Happiness,
discipline.
money, success, freedom. It's at the kind of the center of all those.
Yeah, discipline gives you freedom.
Yeah.
Like you have to hold yourself to a certain like if there's a speed limit and it's 75, it does not affect you if you're always disciplined and stay at 70. A lot of
Right.
people don't want to like follow rules they set for themselves. They want to feel free. But
Yeah.
like when you feel free without like the bounds of like discipline, like that's when consequences happen.
Yep.
And consequences lack your free like lessen your freedom and constrict you. And for me, like nothing is more important than taking care of my family. Making
Yeah.
sure we're
Yeah.
secure. So I don't care if I have like a crappy 2006 Chevy that like it has two doors and then like doesn't look cool, and I haven't like upped my lifestyle to match my income. Like I get to go to bed at night knowing like if I blow out my knee for a year,
Yeah.
like we're good.
Yeah.
And nothing's better than having like that freedom and that peace of mind knowing that like, hey, like unlike all my like I have family members who are like surgeons and lawyers, but like they take a year off, their life would fall
Ghost.
apart. Like
Yeah.
I have all this. For me, as I feel so lucky and so blessed because I feel like I have so much because we remain disciplined, and it's just a nice place to be. Peace of mind. You really can't put a price on it.
How often do you train at the Performance Institute?
I'm I do strength and conditioning there twice a week. I do physical therapy there 4 times a week.
Oh, wow.
Um, yeah,
Awesome.
I use the ice pool like every day. They have a sauna and a spa, and I'm there all the time. I'm there at least 5 times a week.
For people who don't know, will you tell us what the Performance Institute is, how far it is from your house, how long it's been around? Just tell us about it.
Yeah, Performance Institute's been around for about 4 years. It's basically a headquarters where they give fighters everything that they would need. Because the main goal is to keep fighters in Las Vegas. So that way, if there's a last minute fight, they could have people there. But they have nutritionists, sports scientists, weight room, recovery, physical therapy,
And the
food.
UFC owns this. It's theirs.
Yeah, and it's everything's free for the fighters. Basically, they give fighters all the things they complain about, that they don't have, and they give them access to it for free. But they have to come to Las Vegas or Beijing, or they're about to build 2 more, like in Mexico City and one in South Korea. So basically, they're giving fighters access to the things that make fighting expensive, and it's just a hub. And they take your information, kind of like social media. Like if you use strength conditioning, they have to do diagnostics on you, so that way they could put you inside like a chart and compare you to other people in your weight class. So it's all, they're all just they're planning for the future. Like they're trying to make fighters healthier. And it's actually kind of cool because that's why you've seen a lot of these fighters move up in weight classes and just have healthier weight cuts. It's because the UFC Performance Institute and all the nutritionists on staff, and they know exactly what weaknesses you have. When you do a body diagnostics test and your VO2 max, like, they know exactly how to help you. And that's why I'm like, dude, like training's not expensive anymore. Like, and they're about to build a hotel next to the institute too. So they're basically going to have a hotel that will be a few dollars a night. So fighters from all around the world can fly in, stay at the institute, and have cheap housing here. So that way we could actually focus on fighting. The goal of the institute was to up the standard for UFC athletes, and it really has done that. And I live 10 minutes away from it. I have like access to all these perks year round.
Do they teach classes there?
They don't teach classes, but like you could
Eh,
train with UFC champions there because everyone's there all the time. So it allows you to network also because say if like Francis Ngannou is a champion, he's there every day. Brandon Moreno, he's a 125-pound champ, he's always there. It allows you to network. And when fighters have communication with each other, especially in the combative like adverse where everyone you kind of see everybody as like an adversary.
right.
It's kind of like a neutral ground where fighters can talk about sponsorships, talk about this, and this, and I think it's a really good. I think it's a really awesome thing that we have, and a lot of fighters don't take advantage of it. Majority of the fighters still don't use the institute.
Is it pretty empty in there when you go in there?
Pretty empty, especially when you think of the size of the roster. I see the same dozen and a half people. A lot of people, they're like, and I understand the paranoia. They're afraid, like, say, for example, theoretically, like, you go there, you get the body diagnostic test. They know exactly how good your cardio is, how fat you are. And a lot of people are afraid that if the UFC has the information, they could like use it against you. Like say if they're pissed off at you and they know you're not in shape, they'll give you a fight with somebody they know is in great shape. So a lot of fighters are like kind of scared of the UFC having the information on them out of the fear that they'll get taken advantage of. And I think that's a fair concern. But for me, it's like especially because like I score high and all those things. I guess because like I'm doing well. Like I don't have to worry about them using my information
Right.
against me.
Right.
But I understand a lot of fighters and their apprehension at letting the UFC know everything about their bodies, know what they're doing, their injuries, this, and that. It can be uncomfortable for somebody to have all that information on you.
You know, it's funny when you say that to me, I'm like, oh, it's not that big of a deal. But that being said, when you said there was a sports psychologist on staff, I immediately went to that place in my head. I was like, oh, if I was a UFC fighter, I wouldn't go to that sports psychologist because he talks to all the fighters. And I don't want to talk to the same guy who knows all the fighters. I don't want him to know, like, I don't want him to tell him my daddy issues. And then it just seems like I would just have trust issues there. So I get it. Can you bring guests there? Can you bring a friend there?
Yeah, you can bring four. Every fighter can bring up to 3 people. So
Holy
if you have
shit.
yeah, and if you have like a group of friends, like you have several UFC fighters, you can basically bring an entire team of people. Like some people, it's like basically they have like 5 UFC fighters. They'll bring about 15 people. And that's a team. And also, a lot of coaches don't like the PI because it gives fighters a way to kind of break away from toxic environments. Because you can just meet up with some UFC fighters you like, or maybe you've already fought before, so you guys aren't going to fight again, and you can get good training with like quality people and not have to worry about all the fluff, and you have control. But
So
if you
you
have
could
control,
bring a coach there and 2 fighters and be like, okay, listen, Jordan Leavitt has a fight in 3 weeks. We're going to come here every day. Your guys' job is to push the shit out of them. And your
yeah,
coach basically can just take you guys there. You guys can train, sauna, ice, eat, repeat 3 times a day and just fucking grind there.
yeah, and
Man, that is
a lot of
so
coaches don't like
cool.
that.
Say that again.
Yeah, and a lot of coaches don't like that because fighters a lot like Aljamain Sterling, and like he's like a champion that and the 125-pound champ, they're constantly just at the PI. They organize their camps around them. And that used to be super expensive to kind of get your own space, pay the mat fee, fly out training partners. But who doesn't want like free recovery, free food,
Who's the
free,
125 champ? That's Moreno.
yeah, like
Okay.
they just do their own camps. Like they bring in like a 5 or 6 people that they really like trust,
Yeah.
and they just get good quality work in. And you're in
What
and
if
out
their
like maybe about
competitor was there doing the camp also? What would happen? Is there enough
and
room?
when the UFC PI, when they see 2 people in the similar rankings or they know they have beef, they have like a
Yeah.
list. Basically, they'll make you have to schedule things. So,
Okay.
you only get this place for an hour, but since no one uses the PI really, and especially because they're opening one up in Mexico
Yeah.
and then in China and Brazil, like they're gonna have all of the major fight hubs soon. So it's only going to get less crowded. And so it'll basically give ways for fighters to kind of organize their own camps and have a neutral ground. And I think it's a really awesome development.
Can other people from the outside buy memberships there?
No,
No, there's no like you can't like put down $200,000 and be like, okay, I want access. No.
no, I mean, so basically UFC fighters, they get precedence. So even if like there are people who will train with the strength and conditioning staff,
Uh-huh.
but they're only allowed to train outside athletes if no UFC fighter is scheduled for their time. And if a UFC fighter says, "Hey, I want to work out at this time," they have to kick the other person out. So like, I saw Caleb Plant, like who like boxed Canelo like 5-6 months ago. He was
Yeah.
there,
Yeah.
but he had to wait for a fighter to open up. We see NFL players and this, and that, but they're all on fighters' schedules. So
But you can go in is it open 24 hours a day for you?
no, it's open from like 8 to 7, so 11 hours, but all the day hours.
And you don't have to sign up. Like you could if we get off this call and you're like, fuck, I feel like going over there and getting an ice bath. You can just go over there and do that.
Yeah, that's what I'm going to do after this. Just gonna head
That's
over
awesome.
there, pick up my meal prep and yeah, just chill.
And they do the meal prep over there for you too?
Yeah, they handle all fight week, and I guess they have to make you 3 meals a day. Like you could honestly, and they'll make meals for you over the weekend. Like if you're a fighter, you don't have to even get your food. They handle all your food expenses if you're okay being on the menu.
How the hell I don't get why every fighter who's not attached to where they live doesn't move to Vegas and get on that bandwagon. The food
I
thing
know.
alone sounds amazing.
Yeah, like we have 4 nutritionists on staff, and they'll make the meals, they'll tailor them around what you need. They could tell you the daily expenditure of your calories. They could really just take all the guesswork out, just like the Olympic training centers are, and fighters don't like it.
Man, that must be hard for fighters who use that place. And then if you get cut from the UFC, that must be
Yeah.
because you could just be addicted to that place. When that guy, I had a Chris on the show, Montaniu, and he took a last minute fight with 10 days notice against Sean O'Malley. And
Yeah.
one of the cool things that I was happy to hear is that he got a 4-fight contract. Because I always thought, oh shit, I bet you they just are like, hey, here's $20, get in there and fight him, and then they cut him loose. That's what I would have just assumed. And it's cool that he got to fight Sean, got to have that crazy debut, and then he had 3 more fights. He has 3 more fights on the card. Is that the same way it is for the way you came in? Did the Contender Series guys get 4 fights?
Yeah, basically every contract is a 4 to 6 fight deal
For everyone.
Yes.
Okay.
But so basically, but the UFC could cut you anytime they want. So it's not really like the contract that protects you. Like, say if you get a 4-fight contract, but you lose your first 2, you're out, even if there is 4 fights in your contract, because the contract doesn't really have anything that kind of restricts the UFC's ability to handle you as a fighter in their stable. But
okay.
Yeah, like Chris I can't pronounce his last name right now. Basically,
yeah,
he's over
Montaniu.
Yeah, he has so many followers on Instagram now because his fight with Sean O'Malley was crazy.
Yeah.
And he probably gets a good contract because he's so popular and stuff now. So now that he's made good money for his last fight, he has so much time and stability if he chooses to live that way to prepare for his next fight. And a lot of fighters, they don't want to do the business aspect of it. They don't want to build their brand, which gives them more negotiating power to leverage, what they have. And yeah, it's a good era to be a smart fighter who focuses on the outside things.
Yeah. Okay. So they basically. So that's interesting. So it's really not even a 4-fight deal.
No, so basically, if you win, it's a 4-fight deal.
Okay. Which is kind of a no duh, right?
Yeah, but generally, if you win 2 fights in an impressive fashion in a row, you renegotiate your contract anyway. I know very few people who just go through their 4 fights and they win them and then go to their next contract. Because generally, if you win 2 in a row, you get to renegotiate your contract and make more money anyway. So 4-fight contracts, the first contract are very rarely actually finished because they're either renegotiated or you get cut beforehand.
Right. And is that on every fighter's mind in every fight? Like, oh shit, this is every fight is a job, another job interview.
Yeah, it is stressful. Because unless you've won your fight before, there's always a chance you could lose. You get kicked out if you lose. So, I mean, I think theoretically, I think even if I lost this one, I'd have to lose the next one to be cut, unless it was very, very embarrassing and dominant. But generally speaking, the UFC tries to give you the benefit of the doubt in terms of winning and losing, especially for your first contract. And as long as you win one of your first 3, you generally should finish your first contract. So it's a little nerve-wracking, but other jobs, if you have a really bad day at the office, they can fire you too. So
yeah. I'm guessing it also depends on what weight class you're in too. I'm guessing that some weight classes are super duper competitive. I have no idea which ones they are, but I mean, if they have a class with 200 guys versus I mean, it seems like the heavyweights would be an easier place to hang out than the weight class you're in. Your weight class seems just really impacted. There's more people applying for the job.
Yeah, a third of the roster is lightweight. So
holy shit, that's a true stat.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. So the lightweight division is bigger than all 3 women's divisions put together, and possibly the heavyweight. So,
oh my god,
and that's only like active fighters, because there's some fighters that are still on contract, but they're not very active. So the lightweight division is huge. I think it breaks up to like basically like 30% of all fighters are lightweight, and then like featherweight's the next biggest one, bantamweight, and then it's crazy. So yeah, my weight class, it's very competitive. Like there are several win streaks in my weight class that are like bigger than 5. No
Yeah.
other weight class has that. But since there's
Yeah.
so many damn people in lightweight, you could fight. You could climb the rankings without fighting like dozens of other people. But if you're a heavyweight, you can't skip 8 people in the rankings. There's not that many people.
And there's some people like, who's fighting this week on your card is Cub Swanson.
Yeah.
And it's like, how long has he been in the UFC? It's crazy. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, he's been forever. Cub Swanson gone to UFC like the same time as Cowboy did, so he's been there for a while.
And there's a bunch of guys like that, or like even Oliveira. He had to win like 9 or 10 fights in a row before he got a chance at the title.
Yeah,
it's nuts. It's a crazy division.
No, like a lot of fighters, they don't, especially in the upper divisions, you can't compare it. Like Israel Adesanya, he was champion in like 7 fights, because the weight class is relatively small. So you win 7 fights in a row, like then he's a champ in like 2.5 years. That will never happen at lightweight, because there are 95 ranked fighters at lightweight. Like they had the rankings up to like 95. So
Chandler almost pulled off something weird, right?
Yeah, because he went from Bellator and then he got one fight. They gave him a title fight. Yeah, kind of annoying, but but the rankings don't really mean anything in the UFC, because if you're popular, they'll give you a fight. They'll give you any fight that you want as long as it makes sense money wise. So if you have the following, the rankings don't matter. Conor McGregor will get a title fight for no reason because he's Conor McGregor. So
right. I mean, he's already from just what the looks of what's going on Twitter, he's already demanding another title fight.
Yeah.
Who knows?
And then if he builds the hype, then UFC will cave and he'll get a title fight after losing his last 3.
Yeah. Do you think he's done? I don't mean done like he's going to retire, but do you think his best days are behind him?
Oh yeah, most definitely.
Okay.
It's just Conor McGregor had like the same problem as, not the same, but very similar problem to Anderson Silva. Conor McGregor is a pressuring counter fighter. It's like he doesn't really lead very well. The moment people realize that, wait, if I just counter McGregor, he's not nearly as dangerous and he can't hit me nearly as hard because I'm not running into all these punches.
Right.
So I feel like now that people either they're not scared of him, they know the trash talk is just, they know if they ignore the trash talk, it's not going to, mess with them too much. It's just he's very beatable now. He's been beaten every way now. He's been beat by knockout and submission and injury. Some people know what to do to him now, and he looks human. A lot of the great fighters where they have good streak, it's like basically like their aura or their reputation did half the work for them.
Right.
So
it happened to Ronda Rousey too, right? Once someone cracked the code, then it was just like, oh shit.
Yeah, it broke her psyche, and also it kind of made everyone realize, oh, this person's human. Like Amanda Nunes this past weekend, like,
yeah, that was nuts.
I love Amanda and stuff, but like, she's in the 2 least competitive divisions for women's MMA, and they consider her the quote, because she won both belts, but there's like 5 people at women's featherweight, so that belt shouldn't really count because you can't even do a top 10 rankings. They made it so that way Cyborg could have a belt because Cyborg was too big to come to 35. And then Amanda Nunes, she's been champ for, it seems like, a very long time. But she only defended her bantamweight belt 6 times. And Ronda Rousey did that in 2 years. So it was kind of nice to see she's unbeatable, and then kind of like you could see she got broken. She got broken as soon as she met some adversity. And it was kind of a nice thing to watch. And I feel like it's going to make the women's division better as a result, because now everyone's like, wait, we can beat unbeatable people. We can, you all you're telling me is I need to have the right game plan. It doesn't matter if you're better than me. As long as I know how to approach you, I can beat you. And it's always nice because every division kind of has that moment where you realize that the man can get beat, and makes the division more competitive.
I like Pena. I don't want to say anything. This is going to come across negative, but she almost doesn't even look like a professional athlete. Like
I know.
Her, and yet she is the term made her wilt. You almost said, I think that you were basically saying that you enjoy, that's the part that you like. You didn't use that word wilt, but I've heard other fighters on the show say that, or basically that is like the feeling you want as a fighter when you feel the other guy wilt. And that's basically what she did to Nunes, right? I mean, she basically just stood in her face long enough that Nunes' spirit was broken more than actually physically beating her.
Yeah. A lot of people, especially if like they're a bully and they're used to being dominant, like the moment you're not dominant, it's like, dang, what I usually have done that makes me successful, I'm not doing that. And people break. Like first person who flinches loses kind of thing. And a lot of times, like some people, you're just not going to beat them the first few minutes. But fatigue makes a coward of us all. Adversity makes a coward of us all. If you last long enough and like you like endure, everyone will break eventually, or at least they'll flinch. The moment they flinch, you have an opening. So it was nice to watch Pena kind of lose the first round pretty bad. And then she was like, well, basically, I just got to go out there and not die. I'm going to break her with my will. And that's what she did. And it was a very beautiful thing to watch.
Other fights that, basically Poirier gave fucking Oliveira everything in the kitchen sink. I mean, it's crazy that Oliveira survived those 56 fucking face shots in the first round. And then even Sean O'Malley, I want to say, in that fight against Chris, I heard him in an interview afterwards saying his knuckles were still sore 2 months later. And he claims he if they wouldn't have stopped the fight, he was going to knock Chris out. But another part of me thinks that we were one round, if they would have let that go 4 rounds, that Chris was going to win. That basically he was fighting a zombie and it was starting to get into his head a little bit.
Yeah, and I definitely and they ended the fight super early because whatever. But
so you didn't like that stoppage? You didn't like that stoppage? I find that interesting from you because I know you got the big heart and you're like, all right, enough of this beating. I
feel like if I'm a fighter getting like mauled, like end the fight, But when you can tell from the opening bell that Chris is I'm gonna walk through things. I'm not gonna get finished. And I feel like at that point, he earned the 20 seconds more. He wasn't going to get any more hurt in those last 20 seconds now that Sean O'Malley was tired, And I feel like sometimes a fighter earned the right to, see the bell. Like Calvin Kattar versus Max Holloway should have been ended.
Yes, that was hard to watch. That was a beating. Fight,
I don't think he's ever going to recover from that. I don't think he's ever going to be the same fighter. It's because his ego is too big and his corner,
You're saying Calvin may never be the same fighter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Certainly. He took the most significant strikes of any fight ever, And it's not like it wasn't competitive the first few rounds. It was, But I feel like when you've gotten pasted for like 20 minutes straight, that's why you should be able to trust your corner. Like, you should be like, okay, my fighter doesn't have it. Like, if you know he's going to go out on a shield, why the hell would you send him out there?
Right.
If you have hope, that's when you push someone out there. If you don't have hope, there's no reason to, go.
You know what's crazy? You know what's crazy, Jordan? That fucking guy, Calvin Kattar, Rob Font, and Chris Montanillo, those guys are all in the same camp.
Yeah.
Their heads are like anvils. Yeah. Are these the 3 toughest guys in the world? Like, what the fuck?
Yeah, imagine how hard they spar if they're that tough when the lights are on.
Yeah, it's crazy. Did you watch the Font Jose Aldo fight?
Yes, I did. It must be very frustrating because Rob Font was winning every round until he'd get dropped. Like Jose had the exact, he won the only way he was going to win. Like, I'm going to hit him hard, and he hit him hard every round on the rounds, and it's frustrating to see somebody like do better than somebody the entire time, then like get damaged the last little bit.
Yeah.
So Rob Font, like, you know, he definitely could have won that. It's just fights are decided by like 3 or 5 instances, and they happen just not to be any of his instances that he like had the advantage in.
So, some fighters don't watch fights. Why do you watch do you watch fights? Like, did you watch the whole card last week?
I don't watch the whole card. I watch like fights I have emotional attachment to, or I watch my division.
Okay, makes
Um,
sense.
like it's a big commitment of time for me.
Yeah.
Especially the baby, and like Saturday is like kind of a half day. So if my teammates are on it and it's not my division, I kind of don't. I kind of watch it after the fact. Okay, what fights were good? I look it up, and then I.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. And is the fight free at the PI?
Yes, I'll be. Yeah, I'll be on ESPN, not pay per view. So I'm pretty excited.
But I mean, the pay per view. Can you go to the P? Have you ever been at the PI when a pay per view's going and you're like, oh, it's free here?
Oh yeah, it's empty. It's kind of cool. And they don't play it at the PI, sadly. But
Oh,
yeah,
they
like
don't. They don't.
no, they don't. They play the same reruns on the TV all the time. So that's one downside. They don't give you a
Oh,
damn remote for the TVs. But
dude, just go to the front desk and just tell them, hey, can you get the pay per view? That makes no sense. They got to show it at the PI.
right.
Derek Lewis is in the main event this weekend. Are you going to get a photo with him?
I hope so. There's a few people on that card I've been wanting to meet for a long time. Like Angela Hill, have to get a picture of her.
Yeah, that'd
She's
be
been
cool.
a little social media homie. Derek Lewis, Wonder Boy's there.
Oh
So
yeah.
it's a nice like end of the year card, and I'm kind of, even though I'm a little frustrated because all those names, that means we're all competing. All the other less known guys were competing for that one bonus that's going to be left over. So that's a little, but I'm pretty excited to meet a bunch of people I've looked up to.
The good news is that a lot of times he gives more than one bonus.
Yeah, especially the last 2 weeks. He gave 6 last week and then 4 the week before. So
Yeah, crazy. He is Derek, and you are. I really like both your personalities. I haven't had the opportunity to speak with Derek, but I just like that he is who he is. I like you because you are who you are. It's just nice to see people that are they didn't open the dictionary and be like, okay, I should behave like this to be a fighter. I should say this to be a fighter. So I'm kind of excited. It would warm my heart to see you post a picture of you and Derek together. It'd be like, yeah, the homies are together. They're cut from the same cloth and they're brought back together. Jordan, before I let you go, I want to give you a word of encouragement. Not the fact that you're gonna fucking kick ass this weekend, but that on your YouTube channel you have not posted in 10 months a review of a book, and I think that is a huge mistake. Because we all know that you're a voracious reader. Everyone always asks you about your reading. And I think that you should do a book review for every book you do, even if it's just a couple minutes. So those are the words I wanted to leave you with.
that is my New Year's resolution.
To do a
I
review
got
for
a
every
little.
book.
It's fun because I still filmed them. I
Oh,
still
you're just
filmed
not
the videos.
posting
I
them?
just haven't posted it. Yeah,
Oh, even better. Dude, get on it.
I know. My family's like, no, you should do it. Especially because I enjoy it and everything. It's just editing's like the hardest part. Like cutting things out. So
Can't you?
definitely my goal for next year. When I get this
Because
fight, I'm gonna get a bonus, and I'm gonna get all these videos posted and made.
awesome. So you don't just do it in one take. You don't set your iPhone up and be like, okay, guys, here's the book. It's Michael Singer's Untethered. I just read it. Took me 3 days to read it. My favorite part is it's not like that. It's like you're actually editing them.
Yeah, they're usually about like 25 minutes because I ramble a lot, and then I'm like, okay, that's not important. Let me cut that out, kind of thing. So yeah, I kind of just like talk to the camera, and my wife will ask questions about it. I answer it, and then
Oh, that's cool.
yeah, I'm technologically like stupid, so it
You could
takes
do
me
the
a
whole
bit.
thing on your phone, dude. You could do the whole thing on your phone. You could like literally, a friend of mine, John Brzezinski, is the world's greatest arm wrestler who ever lived. He just fired up a YouTube channel and he's just been doing these shows, and it's nuts. It's so basic, and then he just hits send and it goes up to YouTube, and he gets fucking 500 comments. Yeah, you got to do it. People will start eating that up. It makes you it makes you, and I think it's just a tremendous role model for everyone out there in the world. You even said
Thank
that,
you.
like, what did you say? You only read 26 books last year. That was like an all-time low for you or something. I saw in one of your interviews.
Yeah. Since I started reading, like 26 is like the least amount I've ever read.
Yeah, that's
So
nuts.
yeah, it's my baby being in the NICU kind of like put me in a little bit of a like depression, when she's in the NICU and
Yeah.
we're all just at home, and that would kind of like knock me out of like my groove for a little bit. Because then even when she was home, like you're all worried that your baby's gonna get sick again. So for like maybe like the first month my baby was born, like I didn't read a single page. I was too busy like worrying.
Just on
Like
alert.
yeah, just like at night, which like I would like watch her like for like hours. Like I'm
What
not
was your
like
deal? What was up with her? Why was she in the NICU, Jordan? I don't remember if we talked
she
about this.
just did, she just wasn't good at breathing. So she
Okay.
was born and she would just stop breathing. Like and her heart rate would like drop, and so she like would turn blue and just pass out. And the
Wow.
doctors never really did figure out. So it was just very jarring, and definitely still have a little insecurities about my baby.
Yeah. Is it have there been any incidents in the last few months?
Not the last few months. She's only had 2 episodes where we got her little outlet and like heart rate monitor too, just to make sure. She only
Uh-huh.
ever had two. She had one at a time where she turned blue, and we like woke her up and she like was fine. She kind of like got her color back real quick, and then one time where her heart rates dropped. But we're basically we'll have another kid as soon as we're comfortable with her not sleeping with the heart rate monitor on. So
Yeah. Oh, good on you. You're gonna love it. The more the merrier.
yeah.
Oh, it's there's nothing better. Hey, did it make you soft at all? When I was talking to James Krause, he was saying having kids can make fighters soft. Did it make you soft at all?
It makes a lot of fighters soft. So does marriage. A lot of fighters like they fight because it's like part of their identity. Like, oh, I'm this, I'm hard, and so once their edges get a little smoothed out, and you have a kid, and you play dress up or you play peekaboo, it's kind of hard to be a killer. But I never was a killer, so I think it actually makes me a better fighter.
Awesome. All right, dude. I'm super stoked to watch you fight. I
Thank
really
you.
appreciate your time, Jordan. I look forward to talking to you again and continuing our relationship. Saturday, 1 p.m. Pacific Standard Time on ESPN Plus. That's where I watch it, right? That's
Yep.
normally where I watch it. I just do it on Apple TV. Jordan Leavitt is fighting Matt Sayles. Everyone, that's the only fight you need to watch. Watch that one and then come back at the end for Derek Lewis. You're good. You get the rest of the day for yourself. Thanks, man.
Thank you.